Hi everyone, just wanted to add a quick preface to this review for The Underground Railroad. This novel was actually highly influential in me deciding to start a YouTube channel because I just felt so passionately about it. I did, however, film it late one night after work, really tired. Lighting's not good, the editing might not be great, but you know, I think I get my central ideas across the same, so I've decided to upload it. So please don't hold it against me if some of the editing's slightly off and the film quality's not so great, because this was really my first ever attempt at a Booktube video. But yeah, enjoy and highly recommend The Underground Railroad. And thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed out there and for all your encouraging words of support. All the encouraging, supportive words out there have really confirmed to me that starting this Booktube channel was one of the best decisions I've made, and it's a perfect thing for me to be doing at this point in my life. So thank you so much to everyone out there who's supported me and who subscribed, and I'm really looking forward to exchanging book ideas and inspiration and just sharing thoughts in general and connecting with the community. Thanks so much and enjoy the review. Bye. So actually this may not be my first Booktube upload, but it is actually my first ever filming of a book review, of a vlog, of a YouTube video, full stop. So The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. I actually would have really liked some more time to prepare this review. I don't know how booktubers out there, sort of what their routine is in preparing these reviews, whether they just set the camera and play. I've taken a few notes in preparations to get my thoughts in order, but I really would have liked even more time to prepare and read, you know, the critical reception to this novel, because I think it's so topical. But because it's, as you can see on the front there, it was a hot pick at the library, which means 1 week loan, no renewals, $1 fine per day. I need to return it, and it is now a week overdue, and I've been putting off recording this YouTube video, Booktube video, for about a week. So what attracted me to this novel? Well, it was getting a lot of hype on YouTube last year, and I do recall reading a really intriguing review of it in Readings Monthly, which is a newsletter I subscribe to for those outside Australia or even outside Melbourne, Australia. You may not have heard of Reading. It's an iconic bookstore that has a real cult following. I basically lived in Readings Lygon Street during my university days. I really highly recommend subscribing to their Readings Monthly newsletter, whether you do that in print copy or whether you just have it emailed to you. I really trust their selection and their recommendations. So I gave Colson Whitehead's Underground Railroad 5 stars. So this is quite literally the best historical fiction I think I've ever read. To start with, I was actually quite skeptical. I was skeptical that this novel would not transfix me for the simple reason that I am a history teacher. So I'm a tough audience when it comes to historical fiction. I'm a history teacher in a past life now because, of course, now I work in online publishing. But when I was a history teacher, for a number of years I taught an American history elective at Year 10 level here in Australia, and we explored the history of slavery, the abolitionist movement, the Jim Crow South, looked at abolitionist leaders like Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad. And essentially, I was nervous that Whitehead wouldn't be able to pull off this literary representation of slavery and its abolition, and I was worried that it would be cliched and the abolitionist movement would be romanticized. Typically, actually, if you look at representations of the Underground Railroad in history textbooks and in museums, it's somewhat mythologized. But actually the novel turned out to be so multi-layered and highly critical of the way slavery is remembered, the way slavery is represented in our museums, in our history books. It provided this critique of sinister new forms of slavery and white supremacy. It was also deeply critical about what some white communities call cultural uplift. So in some ways, the book reminded me of some of the horrific events of the stolen generation in Australia. Essentially, this novel really forces you to question the notion of what progress is, and to what extent progress might be a cover for underlying racism and prejudice. What Colson does is use what we call speculative fiction, or some have described it as magical realism, to provide a more raw, more brutal, critical exposure of race relations than you will find in history textbooks. So let me talk about what I mean by speculative fiction. So what Whitehead does is he transposes the metaphorical Underground Railroad, that of the Freedom Route, into an actual Underground Railroad with underground stations and carriages, and this is not a spoiler to say this. In the text, Whitehead switches between narrative voice, setting and time. At the very heart of the novel is Cora. So Cora is a protagonist who risks her life to escape slavery, again, not a spoiler, but has these epiphanies along the way at each station of the Underground Railroad about the unequal state of the world and human nature in general. It's very, very hard to read this novel in these times and not think about Black Lives Matter. And going back even further, you can't read this and not think about the Jim Crow South, not think about the Civil Rights Movement and other novels that have come before this, like To Kill a Mockingbird. This is not a light read. It is confronting, and it will stick with you after you finish it. When I finished the last page, I actually couldn't pick up any other fiction for a couple of days. I actually had to move on to non-fiction to just break away from the narrative somewhat. It made a huge impact on me. I highly recommend it. If you have read The Underground Railroad, I'd really love to enter a conversation with you about your experiences with the book. Thank you so much again for watching. Bye.